City Cast Pittsburgh is supported by Fulton Commons. If you're looking for a gorgeous co-working space with lots of light and some truly wonderfully funky decor, check out Fulton Commons on the north side. The historic but very well renovated old school building is deep in the neighborhood by a park, tucked away but still super close to anywhere you want to be. They've got offices and common spaces. It's perfect for organizations or individuals, and they even have a shared food production kitchen on site. So there's lots of food-related events for their members. If this sounds like your dream co-working space, visit fultonpgh.org to request a tour. City Cast Pittsburgh is brought to you today by Barrel and Flow. It has been voted America's best brew festival by USA Today year after year, and I can completely see why. I have been before, and it just keeps getting better. This year is the 5th edition, and it's coming with a full week of events. So the rivers, our shores, so much of the Steel City being celebrated here. It begins with a commemorative vinyl release. There's a midweek day party, a boat ride, a business conference, and it culminates with a 9-hour beer festival celebrating Black culture through music, art, food, small business vendors, and over 75 breweries from all across the country. Check it out and buy your tickets today at barrelandflow.com. Today on City Cast Pittsburgh, our city is getting the spotlight at the Emmys next month. HBO Max's medical drama, The Pitt, was nominated for 13 awards. And while the City Cast Pittsburgh team does not get a say in the Emmys, we can judge The Pitt, filmed here in Pittsburgh, for authenticity. We're bringing back an episode where we're talking about what The Pitt gets right and gets wrong about the Steel City. It's Tuesday, August 5th. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. We've got the whole team on deck for this one. Executive producer Mallory Falk.
Hello.
Producer Sophia Lowe.
Good morning.
And newsletter editor Francesca DeBecco.
Hey.
We know the whole world has been watching The Pitt lately, but we are a team of mostly binge watchers, so we really needed the finale to pop before we were going to dive in, and now is our time.
I also feel like binge watching it makes it feel more realistic because if, the idea is every episode is 1 hour and it's supposed to take place over a whole ER shift, it's like I'm just watching the ER shift from the sidelines.
Yes, the anxiety really builds as you're watching it.
Truly. Full immersion experience.
I think I'm the only one who watched it as a series, so I tuned in every week. And my partner is a nurse in the medical field, and I just feel like when you're immersed in that all day long, it's a lot to kind of binge watch something like that. I felt like we had to do some self-care afterwards. So I actually appreciate that we watched it one episode at a time. It was like little doses. But I will tell you, I was like mad at the end of every episode. There were major cliffhangers. I wish I could have just, fast forward to the next one.
Yeah, even with binge watching, I think I watched like the next 10 minutes, like every single time. Like I could not turn it off at the end of an episode. That happened one time over 15 episodes.
There was one specific episode where I actually had to kind of jump ahead to see how a storyline resolved to know if I was capable of watching it. And then I went back and restarted.
That's what the Wikipedia summaries are for, Mallory.
True. But we want to let you know that the way we're formatting the show today is the top half of the show. We are not going to reveal any spoilers. So if you haven't seen The Pitt yet, but you're curious, you want to catch up, feel free to listen to the top half of this show. We will not ruin anything for you. And then after our ad break, we will get into the storylines in depth, and that is going to be chock full of spoilers. So consider this fair warning.
Yes. So let's talk about the show itself, kind of like how it came to be. It is set in Pittsburgh, shot mostly here locally, at least in September of 2024, so last year. But you really only see like exterior shots, like the inside, the actual emergency department as they depict it most of the time. That was recreated at a soundstage in California. So there's a lot of Pittsburgh love, but actually the bulk of the show is shot somewhere else.
Yeah. And like Sophia mentioned earlier, each episode covers 1 hour of a 15-hour shift at Pittsburgh Trauma Medical Center. That's sort of the the hospital that they're all working in.
The fictional hospital, we should say. But it is shot at Allegheny General Hospital on the north side, the big old one.
Yes. And it follows the attending physician, Dr. Robbie, aka Noah Wiley, and just how the residents and rotating doctors respond to the cases in the emergency department. And so it's really fast paced. It's kind of continual shots, and they're just like hopping from room to room. So it's it's a very active show.
But the beginning, like as there's scene setting, the first shots are all skyline photos, lots of bridges. The rivers are quite blue. So, you could argue it gets it wrong right at the jump.
Some good editing.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some CGI bluing up our skies as well. Like, at least they picked September. Like, it is legitimately when the city is, I would say, arguably its prettiest.
I don't know if you guys felt this way watching it, but like I got so giddy seeing our city. It just looks so beautiful.
Because of the CGI.
Well, I mean, just in general. Okay, the shots in general, true. Like the aerial view of the downtown and North Shore, and then it takes you across the bridge. And in the opening scene, you see Noah Wiley walking towards AGH on the north side. He's on Cedar Avenue in East Allegheny. That's right across the street from the park. Allegheny Commons Park. And I just love seeing that shot. It's so authentic. It's like true of what like doctors and nurses are, where they're walking on their way to work. And
if they live in the neighborhood. Yeah.
Yeah. Or take the bus, or seeing that was really sweet. And all the old houses, like the row houses in East Allegheny. So that was really cool. So he then enters AGH and he goes into the South Tower, which is, like you said, making that big old one. And
it's like the most historical part of AGH, I guess, as it is now. Like it's very gilded, a lot of marble.
Yeah, definitely. And you see, like, when he's walking in, there's like sort of those marble archways. It's really beautiful. And my partner actually works at AGH at the hospital, and he said that entryway is not open anymore. So it makes sense that they filmed there. Yeah. So he says he still has patients that who complain that they can't go into that entryway.
They're going to be complaining now too. They think it's back open because Noah Wiley
walked in. He said it's been closed at least since the pandemic, but then he goes into the lobby, and that is actually accurate, like how they enter the South Tower. And then he goes into the stairs and makes his way to the emergency department. He goes downstairs, and that is not accurate. That is not the way that you get to the emergency room at AGH. And that's when we enter the set, like you said, in Burbank.
And I kind of appreciate, like, because of the structure of the show and we're just like in the emergency department for almost the whole thing, I really prefer this to like a show like Queer as Folk that was quote unquote set in Pittsburgh but filmed in Toronto. And so it just really gets things wrong because it's not the same like visual. You don't actually have the accurate visual backdrop. And so I feel like this format really works well, that they could get the real exterior shots in Pittsburgh, and then when you're inside, it doesn't fully matter anymore.
It was funny, though, whenever they first showed the emergency department, I've been to that ER, and I was like, no, I clocked it right away. It's like, ours is not that nice.
I think it's also worth just stepping back to talk about why this show is set in Pittsburgh in the first place, why it was filmed here. So the EP of the show, John Wells, he went to CMU's School of Drama. He graduated back in 1979. And while he was here, it sounds like he just kind of fell in love with Pittsburgh's beauty, our landscape, our aesthetic.
Which was very different in 1979, we should note. So I love that he's kept in touch enough to know that we have gotten prettier over time.
He just overcorrected on those blue rivers, I guess.
Honestly.
But yeah, he told reporters this month that he hopes that like his love of our city comes across in the show. We're going to talk about that throughout this episode.
And John Wells also has a scholarship at CMU for directing. So I think it's cool that, he loved it so much that even before he came back to film this show, he sort of left a mark here. And Noah Wiley, who helped write the show and again plays the main character, Dr. Robbie, his parents also met in Pittsburgh while they were college students. His mom went to Chatham. His dad went to CMU.
So cute. I love the Pittsburgh connections.
Actually, let's stay on that thread, kind of step back a little bit. Question for the group. Do we think that Pittsburgh is a character in the show? Like, is the city its own character?
Ooh.
Hard no.
Really?
Yeah, I think that like it's very much rooted in Pittsburgh, and it's really clear that, everyone involved really cared about trying to represent Pittsburgh. There are a lot of really great references, but it doesn't feel like a character in that Pittsburgh doesn't really dictate, I think, some of the choices the characters make. And like for the most part, it's set in a hospital room. They could have put this show in any other hospital and done like a lot of local research, like, you know, dropped in the street names and everything, and it would be the same show.
That's a bit how I feel as well. Like, I do feel like if you are a Pittsburgher, you feel seen by the show. Like, there are some really hyper-specific references that I very much appreciated. But I think if you have no connection to Pittsburgh, I don't know that you're going to come away from this show with a strong sense of our city, you know, just by virtue of the fact that it does take place almost entirely inside this hospital.
Fair.
I was thinking about, you know, I've spent a lot of time in Albuquerque, New Mexico, because my partner's from there, and that's where Breaking Bad was set. And to this day, you can take a Breaking Bad tour of Albuquerque, and you really would not be able to do like the Pitt tour of Pittsburgh beyond, I don't know, just the entrance to the hospital and the park across the street from it. So I think it just doesn't help you.
Super short. It would be really funny.
You'd get dropped at one site and then that'd be it. So I don't know. It just does. I don't think it helps you get any sense of the city outside of this one specific hospital, at least not visually.
I do think Pittsburgh is a character. I hear all of your points, and like I kind of wish Pittsburgh was more like rooted as a character, but I view a character like a human character in a series, a movie. It is something that sort of establishes a mood or influences the plot, or just like brings cultural details. And I think that even though Pittsburgh, like our city doesn't have that many scenes in it, I think that Pittsburgh isn't so passive in the show. Like I think about it influencing like these characters in the storyline is so like gritty and hardworking, and that is Pittsburgh. Like all of the medical professionals who work here, and I don't know. I see
They're
Pittsburgh.
also doctors. You can't get that far in school if you're not hardworking.
Fair enough. Yeah. Or apparently ADHD, which I think is just like such a funny line to drop in there about like medical professionals.
That line made things click for me.
Same, honestly. You know, I was prepared to argue that Pittsburgh was a character, but now I'm very confused because all of you make amazing points. I think I maybe still fall like, I don't know, 55-45 on the side of it being a character. I'm definitely doing a both and situation, but I think Pittsburgh is a character. I think it's more of a character than not a character anyway.
I also guess there are shows where there's like a character that's always referenced but never actually shows up. So,
or that like does most of their acting with their eyebrows and their expressions, but doesn't have a ton of lines. You know, like I think I'm advocating for Pittsburgh to be like best supporting actor. You know,
Yeah,
like
sure.
we're not a lead, but we're supporting. Well, let's move on. Does anyone have opinions about where the different characters might live? Again, don't give away any plot points, but I'm curious what you think.
Javati and her mom. Fox Chapel, definitely.
100%.
If not Fox Chapel, since she did go to medical school at a very young age, I feel like that doesn't count as a spoiler because she's like a student. You see how young she is. I could see them maybe living like in Shadyside, somewhere really big, but Javati, you know, could take the bus.
Shadyside was my guess, but I like the suburbs option. Yeah, because I think you need to have like an easy transit option to get to a school at a very young age.
I was also thinking maybe like Upper St. Clair, Mount Lebo, like.
I think for the money element, yes, but for the transit option, no. Especially, again, like you have to, at age 13 to go to college. Again, I don't think this is a big spoiler. You'll know this immediately. What about Dr. Robbie, the lead doctor? I vote War Streets just for the opening scene.
Yes,
Yeah.
he clearly walks to work. So he's got to be in that general vicinity.
I will counter you. I do agree, North Side, but I think he lives in East Allegheny specifically because he's walking up Cedar Avenue. Because if he were living
He
in
could have
the
gone to
War
the
Streets-
Eagle right beforehand. You never know.
Maybe. I think he maybe could be from Squirrel Hill, though. Like, his family lives there.
Because he's
But
Jewish, yeah.
I mean, yeah, like...
His given name is Dr. Rabinovich, so yes, he might have heritage there.
One of my favorite characters, the charge nurse, Dana. I think she is like the most colorful. She's kind of the only one that has a sort of a Pittsburgh accent. It kind of leans Philly.
She
I
says
was about to say,
use.
she's definitely from Philly, but she's lived in Pittsburgh for the last 25 years. Still doesn't count herself as a local. Claims Philly. She doesn't say any of this. This is me projecting.
You're not entirely far off because I actually looked this up. She like really wanted to have sort of like a light Yinzer accent. And she actually worked with a dialect coach, but she reached out to someone who worked on Mayor of Easttown, which as we know is more Eastern PA. And so they tried to kind of come up with more of a Western PA sound. But I mean, she should have called up our friend Don Wadsworth at CMU, who Megan gave you a lesson on the show in Pittsburghese.
Yeah.
He was sitting right here in Pittsburgh.
She seems, infinitely more talented with voice acting than I, but I don't think our episode would really recommend him. That's not his fault. I just wasn't a great student, but also he gave me Shakespeare. That's not fair.
That's true. He gave you the advanced lesson. The thing I did appreciate was the actress who plays Dana did say that it like really bothers her when somebody's playing like a character from Georgia and they have a Cajun accent. Might have been a little bit of a knock at the most recent season of White Lotus, but so she didn't want to like come off that way. She really wanted to nail Pittsburgh. I don't know that she was 100% successful, but yeah, I appreciate the effort.
I think she gets the attitude dead right, though. Like, that part is perfect. And it kind of gives, like, South Hills vibes to me, like, a little bit.
Exactly. That is what I was going to say. She definitely takes the T into town for work and, like, walks up the hill to AGH. She's from, like, Dormont or Beachview. Like, family has lived there forever. I think that she, like, her whole vibe was authentic. When I saw an interview of her, like, talking in her normal voice, I was, like, pretty impressed. Like, she did a good job.
I think she's more of a Mount Oliver girl myself. Like,
okay, yeah.
The Pittsburgh Reddit was very aligned that she has Brookline vibes.
Ooh, okay.
Oh.
Very close. All right, I was close with Beachview. Yeah, all right.
We're in the right part of town.
Which ones do you think live in the suburbs?
Definitely Langdon because of those children. He's in Wexford. I feel pretty certain.
I said the same thing, Mallory. Like, he's a Wexford dude. He has like wife, kids, and a dog. He definitely shops at the Whole Foods. His kids go to North
Trader
Allegheny.
Joe's.
Yep. This will all make a lot more sense to you once you watch the show. So yeah, come back. The second half of our show here will have spoilers. So make sure to watch the whole season before you listen.
Today's show is brought to you by Overlook Maps. If you need an easier way to remember that amazing little cafe you found last summer or a perfect hiking spot that your friend told you about, I have good news for you. With Overlook Maps, special places never get lost again. You can create personal lists of places you've been or want to go, build your must-visit list for your next vacation, your favorite restaurants for nights out, or your getaway ideas when you need to escape. I have personally been DIYing this exact thing since I was in college using Google Maps, and y'all, that is not what Google is best at. My lists are kind of a mess, completely dependent on the notes I did or did not remember to write down at the time, and until now, it was my only way to record all the cool things I had done or wanted to do. I am so excited because Overlook Maps has solved for something I have wanted in my life for years. It's a way to remember, to categorize, to find the best spots for me and my crew because they have so many curated layers that you can check out, from Michelin guides to the New York Times and eater recommendations. You can even make your own private lists, keep your own secrets, or share with friends and collaborate about the places that you are most excited to check out as a group. You can even put in food preferences, and Overlook Maps will make the recommendations. And they have a routing feature that will tell you where you can eat in the direction that you are already headed. I have been begging the universe for this thing for so long, and Overlook Maps has delivered. Icing on the cake, there are no ads. No one's selling your data to advertisers, just amazing spaces and places organized exactly how you want them. Overlook Maps. Collect, organize, and share the places that matter to you. Download it for free at overlookmaps.com and check out overlookmaps.com/Pittsburgh to see some of our favorite spots on a map and in your pocket. Your places, your way.
As a sports fan, I have to confess. Sometimes the game gets kind of boring. That's when I unfold my Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 and use multi-window viewing on its large screen. Boring game? I'm checking out my fantasy baseball league at the same time. Score still 1-0? I'm replying to emails in the other window, scoring points with the boss. Semifinals finally getting exciting? I'm buying tickets to the finals and booking my flights. Can your phone do that?
The new Galaxy Z Fold 7. Get yours at Samsung.com.
We're going to talk more about the actual show, the stuff that happens, where it maybe happens, because sometimes they tell us like it's pretty explicit and sometimes they do not. We're left to guess, and what we want to see in season 2. So a huge content warning here. There will be spoilers, many spoilers. Let's start with the plot points. Like, how could stuff have maybe happened here, but also maybe not have happened here?
I took that question to one of my friends. Her name's Lily Nong. They are currently a medical student, but she went to Pitt, practiced emergency medicine as a paramedic in the city.
Ooh.
And they actually talked about the ambulance. Very small plot, but the ambulance that gets stolen from the Bay by frat students.
I don't think it's small, actually. I think that's like a pretty big one because it carries on through multiple episodes.
That's true. But it actually also happened here in real life.
My favorite moment is like in one of the first episodes when the ambulance gets stolen, because that happened maybe like 1 or 2 years ago. It honestly might be older now. But like the ambulance made it all the way from the city to Aliquippa. And it's just so funny because that's like such a niche thing that happened in Pittsburgh. And then the other quote where like that patient is like, I could get an Uber to Presby. Like the beef between like AHN and UPMC is so real.
You know, I wondered about that the entire time I'm watching the show, especially like when Dr. Robbie's standing on the roof and you see the helicopter come in with still Allegheny Health Network on the helicopter.
Yeah.
Like, do you think like Jeffrey Romoff, like the former CEO of UPMC, just like was livid about this whole thing? Because that guy loved attention and got celebrities to voice their commercials all the time, still does. Like, I am fascinated by what UPMC execs might be thinking about this.
That being said, I feel like people wanting to transfer their care to other hospitals was kind of like a knock on AHN. And so maybe UPMC was happy about this depiction as there where people want to go if they have any say in the matter.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, and they do mention a lot of UPMC facilities through it. They just don't say the name. Like they say like Presby and Mercy and West Penn and all these other things that are like, I mean, we know, but other people wouldn't necessarily know.
And then, Megan, one of the things you pointed out was there is just one attending, Dr. Robbie, who is very much overwhelmed.
Yes.
And
I feel like so much is a problem because Dr. Robbie is alone in the room all the time.
Yeah, well, there definitely would be more doctors and attendings, at least at a hospital in Pittsburgh, like these big ones, AHN, UPMC. This is what Lily said. There'd usually be about 2 to 4 attendings. So at least twice as many people as we'd see here, maybe like 5 to 6 residents, and then obviously more nurses, med students, techs that help and pitch in. But in terms of doctors, like they're just a few people off. But, you know, I guess we can't have that many characters in the show.
Unfortunately, I think that sometimes there is only one attending. My partner said that that's accurate sometimes, unfortunately. And the other thing he pointed out was that there weren't any respiratory therapists in the ER, which is...
Do they usually have them there? I don't know who usually stops in ER.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There also weren't any physician's assistants. So, like, I mean, I recognize that. I think it's funny that, like, a lot of positions now that are offered in ERs are like, wait a second, where's our representation?
Yeah. And I know we follow, like, the physicians, the doctors more. We even follow them more than the nurses. But it's just an interesting thing to point out of, like, what you'd actually see in the ER.
That being said, I have heard people praise the fact that there are these positions that, like, never get attention in previous shows, like the custodial staff, that
Yes.
you do see the critical work they're doing throughout this series. And so, yeah, maybe not any pulmonary representation here, but there are other hospital workers that I think are getting their shine in a way that they haven't on any other medical series.
Yeah, that's important.
Totally. Well, besides the doctors, all the other staff, the other people in the emergency room are the patients. And I also asked Lily about that too, whether like these injuries seemed realistic and whether they'd be getting so many people showing up at once.
This isn't happening like every hour, like the way, like how each episode is 1 hour. A lot of those things that are happening in 1 hour probably take place over like 4 or 5 hours. But when I was in paramedic school, I remember doing my like trauma rotation at Presby, and there's like 3 trauma bays at Presby. And I remember like 3 traumas came in at the same time. So like we were just jumping from like room to room to room. And like I was a student, but like at that point I just like started helping because like everything was hitting the fan at once. So definitely like moments like that happen, but it's not like super crazy all the time. And I think a lot of emergency medicine right now is patients who don't have access to primary care, non-acute complaints like they need like a medication refill or they have high blood pressure. And I do think the Pitt like tries to highlight that a little bit, but like the waiting room being like super crowded and wait times being like 8 hours is extremely realistic.
Unfortunately, I can attest to this. Waiting in the ER is horrible, and I've been there for 7, 8 hours. I think the waiting time in the waiting room of the on the show is extremely accurate, and just how everyone is there with just stuff together, and the most important cases are going back first. Yeah, not a fun time.
You know, I fussed about this too, like the idea of like the wait times and that kind of thing. And also just like, I feel like I hear people in Pittsburgh talking about going to the ER in a way that I did not hear living in other cities. However, I was reminded that an ER is required to take people regardless of insurance or anything like that. And I think there could be an element of like privilege here, like we're seeing this and we're like, who the hell would want to wait in a waiting room for 8 hours? But like, if that is your only option, that is where you go. Because I think that's why it's a cross section of humanity with cases big and small, is because they don't have anywhere else to go.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, also, I bet a lot of this stuff just feels so on point because the Pitt really did their research and apparently brought in medical professionals to help them build out some of these storylines. Mallory and I were both actually listening to the segment on Science Friday recently where they had a doctor on from UPMC Children's who got to like consult on the show and influence all of these decisions about how they approach some of these stories.
Yeah, her name is Dr. Sylvia Owusu-Ansah, and it was really fascinating to hear about how she and other local doctors contributed ideas to the show. One of the things she talked about, Dr. Robbie, is, teaching the residents, and he explains that when a patient dies, everyone observes a moment of silence to honor that patient, and that's actually something that is done at Children's Hospital. That was her suggestion to incorporate into the show. She says anytime there's a passing, they take a moment to celebrate the patient's life and take a moment as health providers to just take a deep breath before moving on to the next patient. So I thought that was really, really touching that that's an actual thing that's happening here that then got woven into the series.
I love that. That was a really powerful scene, and I hope that that's implemented at all hospitals. I think every life deserves that, whether you're the one who, was treated or you're the one who's caring for the patient.
Yeah, I also love just like kind of stepping back a little bit that she says she hated medical dramas, like all of them.
Yeah.
But she says that like one of the things that this show gets right and that it really validates the experience. But she says like the medical scenarios and the pace that you were talking about, Sophia, like all of that, like this show gets correct. And it actually validates the experience of a lot of medical professionals in a way that she has just never seen on film before.
I would say the majority of emergency departments, especially when you think of smaller, like suburban areas or rural areas where you have community hospitals or tertiary care centers, where we are the hospitals that may only have certain types of specialty groups or surgical groups, we're overwhelmed all the time. At my hospital, UPMC Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh, we see about 200 kids a day, 80 to 100,000 children a year in the emergency department alone.
Wow, that's not surprising. Incredible. Dang, we're so lucky to have Children's.
We really are. And she actually kind of talked about that too, just kind of the contributions Pittsburgh has made and continues to make to medicine. Like she was asked kind of why is this show set in Pittsburgh? And she says, why not? Look at all of these contributions we've made to medicine. Like we have Thomas Starzl, who performed the first successful liver transplant, the Freedom House ambulance service, which was really the birth of EMS services, emergency medical care in our country.
And they did such a good job breaking that story into the whole show.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts. I love that so much.
I did too. And she was actually the one who advocated for that storyline. And she's actually working right now on getting a Congressional Gold Medal for the folks in the Freedom House ambulance service. So I love that that was something she pushed for. And I agree, the show handled it so beautifully. And that, when we're talking about is Pittsburgh a character or not, that might be the most critical scene for the argument that it is, because this is a really key part of local history that people are learning from watching the show.
Yeah, people all over the nation, certainly. I also thought like some of the details that she talked about, like, you know, people speaking so many different languages in the city of Pittsburgh, like they have the Nepali patient and just what it takes to be able to treat her effectively because they don't speak the same languages. And also, like, this was one that like hit home for me, like how often she personally sees cases of pediatric ingestion of cannabis gummies.
Oh, is that really common? I
That is
watched that line and
incredibly common.
I was like, I could absolutely see this happening, but I didn't know if it was like a regular basis.
Yeah, like, and I mean, pets and children, like, I have a friend who works in the space actually, and she said that unfortunately it happens so often that when her kids now go to a new adult's house, like they want to go do like a play date or something, she now asks parents about this, not to like scold them or shame them. She doesn't want to know like what they do behind closed doors. She just wants to be like, do you have your stuff in a safe place away from the kids? Okay, cool. And that's like part of her regular conversation now because she sees it so often professionally.
That is so fair.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seemed like there were storylines in here that were sort of like a little PSA to the public. And I really appreciate that because I don't think any of them were done in a really heavy-handed way. But I could imagine that this show like was really didn't just teach people about history like the Freedom House Ambulance Service, but there's things to be extra cautious about or watch for now that I certainly didn't know about until watching the show.
Gatorade is the #1 proven electrolyte blend designed to hydrate better than water. So you can lose more sweat and raise your game. Gatorade, is it in you?
This episode is brought to you by Cadillac. Cadillac certified service technicians are factory trained to fit your vehicle with the tires specifically developed for it. And with our tire price match guarantee, you get the best fit for the best deal. Let us do the work. Available on select eligible tire brands at participating dealers only. Offer ends 12/31/2025. Terms apply. See dealer for complete details. Visit Cadillac.com/service to learn more.
Where do we think the different plot points are happening? Because sometimes stuff's going on, but they don't tell us where in the city it allegedly is. Like, where do we think that Pitt Fest was? Because if AGH is the closest hospital where they're taking all the patients, like, it has to be somewhere near there.
Well, I think Pitt Fest sounds like orientation week, like the university really wants to hype it up. So first, they did a lot of research in other ways, but I think terrible name for a music festival in Pittsburgh.
Oh, did you see the logo on the badges too? Also not good.
No, I didn't catch that part.
Like for AGH to be the closest, it could be in Allegheny Commons Park, except clearly not, because when they're all sitting there having a beer at the end, there would not have been like, they wouldn't have been able to just sit down when there was just a mass casualty event there, when there was just a mass shooting.
They were also waiting for a bunch of ambulances to come in. They didn't know right away. If it was right outside, then they would have been able to tell like what was happening.
That's true. And it can't be the point, because then the first trauma center would be Mercy.
Right. I don't know. This confused me. I was with you, Sophia. When they said Pitt Fest, I immediately thought Oakland. But that's just because we refer to like Pitt as anything, you know, the
they
university.
could have gone with Berg Bash. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's also terrible.
My first thought for where you could have like a major music festival like that is like Carrie Furnaces, but that's completely in the wrong direction.
I know.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking like maybe Highmark Stadium. Do you guys remember when there used to be like an amphitheater over there? Okay, now we're talking about what used to be there, but I don't know. Maybe the North Shore. Maybe like it was spread out like Stage AE. Maybe it's in multiple places. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that one's going to remain a mystery. We'll bring it back down, like, because Pitt Fest is obviously like the culminating big climax of the show. Where do we think the e-scooter accident happened, where it was the person versus the car?
Downtown.
Oakland, for sure.
Oh, I actually think downtown too. I'm with you, Sophia.
My biggest question is, when was the show set? Because it had to have been before e-scooters were removed from the city of Pittsburgh.
Well, kind of. I was thinking you meant time of year, because there's this guy that comes in, he mentions like, it's the first time I've worn shorts all year, which suggests like it's like April or May, maybe.
Yeah.
But the Pirates are playing too. Like the one guy comes in quoting the Pirates score. So it has to be during baseball season.
Early bucko season, like springtime for sure.
But our trees are not green yet. Like they're not they're not looking nice.
Well, based on that season 2's taking place July 4th weekend and it's 10 months later, the show would have taken place in September.
Okay, good for you,
Oh.
Sophia. Look at you mathing. Let's also take a moment just to shout out all the small ways that they clearly went out of their way to try and incorporate pieces of Pittsburgh. Even if they didn't get it exactly right, I do appreciate just like all of the mentions they like took time to find or like took feedback on and like tried to slip them into the show. Like the Mr. Rogers set builder, for example. Like that was just so sweet.
That was really
That's
sweet.
my favorite.
I loved that. I also loved every time someone said this is a hospital, it isn't X. Like, this is a hospital, it's not Rivers Casino. This is an ER, it's not Philly.
Yeah.
I loved those lines.
Those were so great. There was also a lot of really cool, just like name drops of like local businesses. There was a sommelier at Altius.
I immediately started like Googling the menu when I was watching, and I was like, ooh, maybe I should go there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there was someone wearing a Giant Eagle t-shirt. I was shocked that there wasn't more Pittsburgh like gear worn.
Well, then you need to pay to use the logo.
I mean, for this to be realistic, 2/3 of the people in that waiting room should have been wearing Steelers jerseys.
Or penguins or pirates
Yeah.
or something.
Pirates.
Although they must have, that's a good point, Sophia. They must have paid the rights because in the honor walk for the college student that died, he's wearing a Steelers blanket.
They also get permanis delivered for lunch from like one of the characters in the show.
I don't understand how you would have the energy to keep working a shift like that after you eat a permani sandwich. Like, that did not feel super realistic. I feel like you would just need to go digest.
I'm not even sure you could find the time to actually consume the permani sandwich. Like, it's a whole event.
But I do think like having like working in a big like a workplace with a lot of people in like a small break room situation where like everyone keeps walking outside and they're like, food in the break room. Like that feels very true to every
Yeah.
job I've ever had. You just like eat like a feral animal.
Yeah. And also accurate to like have someone send something. Like I've heard many stories of my partner telling me that like patients and patients' families will buy them lunch or treats or whatever. But my one beef with this is that if it is indeed based at AGH, you know, the Pittsburgh Medical Trauma Center, I think it'd be more realistic that they're eating a Pepe's sandwich because I know
Pepe's is better
true.
too.
I know that Pepe's delivers to the hospital a lot. So that's my one hot take there.
I think one of my favorite moments in the whole series is when they're dumping on Ohio. Like it's just so low key, which felt very real. Like Dr. Robbie's talking to Collins about like, you know, the repercussions. And she's like, worst case, you'll just have to go take a job in Youngstown. You'll be fine. And it's just, but it's said with so much venom, like dreaded Youngstown.
Yeah, and you know he won't be fine.
Yeah.
Youngstown.
That's so true to Pittsburghers. And we can't forget like the iconic ending scene, them at Allegheny Commons Park. I was like so giddy when I saw it. I was like, that's my park.
Yeah,
I loved
drinking
it.
Iron City beers.
Who's bringing out the cooler after the day you've had? Where's that cooler been all day? Where did you get the ice? Like, do you really keep a case of Iron City just hanging around?
It kind of seems like it because they were like, yeah, we do this a lot. We debrief after work.
Yeah, and you know, this show, it does get a lot right, but they do get some things wrong. Like the whole city of Pittsburgh was up in arms after somebody pronounced Woolies wrong. Critical mistake.
Yeah, Langdon. I mean, I would argue it's not the mispronunciation of Woolies. It's the implication that you work at AGH. Let's just pretend our theory is correct. Your family lives in Wexford. You're not going over to the Strip District to buy a piece of fish after work and taking that thing home. And if you are,
closes
you
at 5 p.m.
absolutely know what time it closes. Yes, Sophia.
I was gonna say the Strip District like markets are not open that late. Most of them do some
No.
wholesale and stuff. They're done by 5.
They
Exactly.
tried. They
I know.
tried.
I like it for the effort.
The other thing was whenever they said jack off instead of jag off. Come on.
I know. I was sad
That was
about
so
that.
disappointing.
Yeah.
I'm still floored that someone did not like hear someone say jack off and go take a double take and was like, wait a second.
But I
People in
had to do a
Pittsburgh-
double take. Like I literally like rewound it a little bit and I was like, wait a second, was that jack off instead of jag off? Because I wasn't sure of what I heard. Maybe they just missed it.
Well, Megan, we were talking about the same thing because I originally thought that they were saying yins on the show, but you said that they say use.
Use.
I heard
It's
use.
definitely use.
My subtitle said a use.
That's what you get when you get the mayor of Easttown coach to coach you.
I know. And like, to be fair, like it does still feel Pennsylvania. Like I have like I've met people in Western Pennsylvania who talk like that. It sounds very authentic, but man, she could have thrown a yinz in there for sure. And the one other thing I caught was they mispronounced Monroeville. They said Monroeville, which people on Reddit were mad about.
I also noticed that Mel said that her sister was at a facility in North Hills, not the North Hills, which felt like a little error.
Oh, I the same thing. I think they said the I-79. Weird.
No. I didn't catch that one. But they do, they mention Frick Park and South Park, Fine Wine and Good Spirits, Crosby the dog, and they ask him, do you mean David or Sid? There's just so many, little moments woven into the fabric of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can really tell, people who know Pittsburgh had some hand in the show.
I'm really excited to see what they're doing for season 2.
Which is happening. It's official. Noah Wiley and others, they say, are going to be back in Pittsburgh, I think this September, to shoot for a few days. I guess we should mention there is technically still a lawsuit ongoing with the estate of Michael Crichton, who, is the really prolific author. He did Jurassic Park and Andromeda Strain and so many other things. He made ER. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And people say that The Pitt is a reboot, which I guess the showrunners had discussed doing years ago, potentially with Noah Wiley. But the current folks making The Pitt disagree. Obviously, it has not stopped them. The Pitt is now going into season 2. It did not prevent this show from coming out and getting made. So, yeah, season 2 expected to drop in early 2026. I'm wondering if y'all have any Easter eggs or storylines that you would like to see in season 2, maybe stuff that they didn't get to this season, but you really want them to next time.
Well, I heard that the next season is going to take place around 4th of July weekend.
Yes.
So kind of iconic Pittsburgh. I'm imagining there's going to be some sort of, I hate speaking these things into existence, but unfortunately there might be a fireworks incident, and I don't know, maybe they'll shout out Zambellis. I don't know, something like
we
that.
We actually got a message from one of our listeners on Instagram saying, I heard you guys talking about the Pitt. The 4th of July weekend is the worst in the city of Pittsburgh for the emergency departments, by far.
I mean, that kind of makes a lot of sense to me. I'm sure even just the heat stroke cases alone are filling up the ER then.
Well, speaking of heat, do you guys know what else is happening during 4th of July weekend this year in Pittsburgh?
I mean, it happens every year in Pittsburgh.
Anthrocon!
Yes.
Oh my gosh,
yes. Are coming.
That is so perfect for a storyline.
I hope they do it.
If there's not a furry in this season, then I think the whole thing wildly inaccurate. I also took a little spin through the Anthrocon website, and they have river cruises, I assume on the Gateway Clipper, so we could get a river accident and also maybe a bridge incident and Anthrocon in the same plot line. I think that'd really get messy and be good drama.
Definitely heat exhaustion in the suit.
It would be funny if it was just kind of recurring throughout the entire shift. You were getting more and more furries who don't
you just get a furry every episode or two.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of opportunity for transit-related disasters in Pittsburgh, like something happening in a tunnel, a bridge catching fire or collapsing, both of which have happened in recent memory. Like the convention center caught on fire once, which actually involved a bridge too, because there's that little bridge
during Anthrocon.
Yeah,
like the bus falling into a sinkhole or down a hillside, or two bus drivers racing. Also, real things that happened here not long ago.
No, sinkhole bus has to be a storyline. I also think, to me, the number one Pittsburgh injury is people getting injured trying to climb the incline tracks, drunkenly trying to climb up the incline tracks. So that is the kind of accident I think should be showing up in this.
That's a number one injury?
No.
What did I was taking a little poetic license there. What I meant, by number one, I don't mean recurs the most. I meant feels extremely Pittsburgh, would only happen here.
Okay, I was a little concerned.
I would be really excited if I know the timing is wrong for real life, but I think you could make it work. The regatta, that float tag. I don't know if I'm saying that right. That contest they have where they shoot the flying objects off into the river. There's so many opportunities there. First of all, flying objects going into the river. Second, what if people drink them on and then they get a parasite, like the water?
Yes.
River disease. Very believable.
Definitely. Or a boating accident. Yeah, something with the boat. I was talking to my partner about this, and he said that he wants to see a storyline where someone gets, this is so gross, an intestinal blockage after eating too much at Rib Fest.
That That's so specific.
I know.
Well, we are definitely going to watch season 2 as soon as it comes out. But if you have any Pittsburgh Easter eggs you'd really like to see, any storylines you want in season 2, or you have hot takes on which neighborhood one of these characters lives in, please give us a call. Our number is 412-212-8893.
That is all for today here on City Cast Pittsburgh. The Primetime Emmy Awards are coming up on September 14th. If you want to root for the Pitt live, we will be watching. I can't wait to see how the Pitt does. We will be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. We'll talk to you soon.
What if the ER is entirely filled with people or no, I guess furries don't call them costumes. I was just like, what if it's just like furries and the pierogies?